is saying, I am keeping this particular one. All right. The incumbent for Bukoli Islands in Namayingo District, Honorable Okeyo Peter Babu, an incumbent for the National Resistance Movement, is keeping it, sticking in right there. Independents coming in, an independent NRM leaning in the names of Oma Willie for Namayingo South in Namayingo District in Busoga is saying, I am coming in. But of course, you have the likes of Budiope East constituency in Buyende District, where NRM already secured a slot under Honorable Moses Magogo Hashim, the incumbent, but also someone who is getting his second stint. Now, as Honorable Moses Magogo was being declared unopposed, there was a lot of conversation, especially when we did see Damzungu. Damzungu is the previous person who was in that particular seat in Budiope East, who was ousted by Honorable Magogo Moses Hashim, particularly when he did come to stand in Parliament. And when he was also declared unopposed, of course, Godfrey Damzungu did earlier withdraw from the race. He cited that his father was not feeling well, but also he did cite conversations around, facing a bit of pressure from the family, and he decided, I am not continuing with the rest. But he was contesting, I'm talking about Honorable Moses Hashim Magogo, was contesting with Daniel Mulirire, who had been earlier disqualified by the Electoral Commission, and also the High Court upheld the Electoral Commission's disqualification, and that is how Hashim Magogo was declared unopposed. Ladies and gentlemen, like I told you, it is 17 minutes past 8. The National Tally Center will be getting active at exactly 9 a.m. Why? Because the Electoral Commission chairperson, Justice Simon Byabakama Mugenyi, after delivering the first set of results yesterday at exactly 45 minutes past 10 p.m., he said we will be getting another set of results coming in at 10 a.m. at 9 a.m., I beg your pardon, at 9 a.m. today. So, as of yesterday at 45 minutes past 10, Justice Simon Byabakama Mugenyi had delivered results that were a representation of 23,000 votes, 23,845 votes that had so far been tallied, representing a 0.11% of the total registered voters as of then. But interesting that as at the first announcement that did come through from the National Tally Center in Lubowa, we also did have the invalid vote count of the 0.11% of votes tallied as yet, being at 796. It was a representation of 3.34% of the 23,845 votes that had so far been tallied, and that is still ongoing, ladies and gentlemen. And so at exactly 9, we will be taking you back to the National Tally Center. But we're also stationed at the different tally centers of the districts, Kololo, Mbarara, Sembabule, Masaka, and many others. We are definitely going to be giving you an update. Remember, we are in Fort Portal, we are in Hoima, we are in Arua, we are in Gulu. Across the 146 districts, we have our foot soldiers, we have our stringers, we have our correspondents, but we also have our bureau chiefs of the different areas right there, and we will be giving you all those conversations coming through. But what the data I am representing right now is data of leading candidates in the Member of Parliament races. The different Member of Parliament races, be it the District Women Member of Parliament or be it the directly elected members of Parliament. Remember, currently Parliament is constituted of 529 members of Parliament. How is that broken down for our viewers? Now, for the directly elected members of Parliament, we have about 353 seats right there of directly elected members of Parliament. And then on the affirmative action slot for District Women Members of Parliament, we have 146, of course, because the 146 district cities as well that were represented in the last election. Remember, there was no quote-unquote political gerrymandering ahead of this election where new administrative districts would be formed. That is why we still upheld 146 for the district cities as well as municipalities right there. But remember, this is going to change because the likes of Nagongera, the likes of Tororo being split into another about 4 districts. is exactly what is going to change now. The total tally from 146 to 150. But also still looking at the Constitution of Parliament, away from the 353 directly elected members of Parliament, you have 146 of the district women members of Parliament. We have 10 standing posts or listening posts. That is from the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and that also will be coming through later on. Of course, not as yet right now, but they will be definitely coming through much later on, because as pursuant to the UPDF, to clause 70, Article 78, clause 1, that is which talks about the composition of Parliament. And if you look at 1, 2, 3, and 4, talks about composition of Parliament, also representing the special interest groups. Special interest groups now, after the UPDF, which has 10 representatives, we have the persons living with disabilities, which brings out 5. We have the workers MPs, which brings out 5. We have the youth members of Parliament, which brings out another 5. And we also have the elderly, which also presents 5 members of Parliament. And that in a total sums up to 529 members of Parliament currently as is, but those definitely will be able to change, because with the introduction of new districts is a constituency that probably has to be created, whether it's one constituency or more than one constituency that you will get to see. We get to have a constituency representatives, and also we get to have a woman representative as per the affirmative action slot. Of course, there's been a lot of conversation about these affirmative action slots, so the special interest groups, because at least Article 78, Clause 1, D of the Constitution, I think it's D, yes, if I do remember very well, it does clearly speak of a review after 10 years, as after the promulgation of the Constitution. But ladies and gentlemen, remember, Uganda's Constitution was promulgated in 1995 after, of course, the 1962 Constitution that had come into place with the Adoki Commission that had been, of course, asked earlier to get the views of Ugandans on what kind of constitution they needed. So after the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution, at least as per Article 78, it did stipulate that after 10 years, we should have had a review of women member of Parliament, youth members of Parliament. You're talking about the elderly, the workers. But well, I think Parliament hasn't been able to get a comprehensive conversation around these constitutional amendments coming through. And by the way, Laropeche, contender for that seat, who is also the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister, that is Norbert Mao, had quite talked about a comprehensive view of the amendments that we needed to be going into. But anyway, that's a story for another day. We'll be here to give you all those conversations coming through. I was still giving you some statistics coming in from Busoga. Right Honorable Rebecca Alitu-Alakadaga, the incumbent woman member of Parliament for Kamuli, is still leading. She's been quite holding a grip onto this particular one, also having become the first ever woman lawyer to own law chambers. I mean, sometimes you need to give credit where it is definitely due. She was the first woman to hold law chambers, of course, after studying law. She was the first female Speaker of Parliament in the history of Uganda, first female speaker right there. She served her 10 years as Deputy Speaker and also moved on into the hierarchy to serve as the Speaker of Parliament. Also, she was quite instrumental in the discussions in the national resistance movement of having a female national vice chairperson. And that is why you see under the NRM hierarchy, after the chairperson of the party and the national vice chairperson, you have the first national vice chairperson, Alhaji Moses Chigongo. You have the second national vice chairperson, female, which is currently a position that is held by Anita Mong, but it was previously as well held by Honorable Rebecca Alitu-Alakadaga. So you can get to see how some of those positions did come into play. Honorable Muzale Martin Mugabe is coming in to maintain his seat in Buzaya, in Kamuli, and currently we are talking about the statistics currently being held right there. And Namatovu Mastula, Kamuli Municipality, is leading for the NRM in Kamuli. We are also having Honorable Namukunta Brenda, an independent woman member of parliament for Kalido, coming in right there. We have an independent NRM leaning, that is Mugoya Bernard Muti.